Hello? Make sure the sound's working. Hello? Okay, it's working. Whew. Hey, Erica, that's okay if you can't stay too long. I totally understand it. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little started so I can get the sound checks out and everything before 7, technically. Uh, if I might ask, Erica, are you by chance across the pond around like Europe in that area? Hey, Tony. Oh, you're in Oregon. Nope, that's not across the pond. Beautiful country out there, though. Although I wasn't too fond of having to drive through Dead Man's Pass in an ice storm in winter going out of Oregon. Didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. That's okay. We all have alter egos, I think. And I'm glad you was able to join us. We're actually considering doing a second live stream. Um, and we're wanting to put it earlier in the day because we do have a lot of people from across the pond who they want to make it to these live streams, but when I do them, it's like midnight to 1 to 2 a.m. sometimes. That's one reason we're starting at 7 tonight. I want to say it was Mattis last week requested if we could. So he's going to see how the 7 worked out a little better than the 8. I mean, I'm tickled to death y'all stay up that way late to even hear me ramble. All right, we are officially at the 7 o'clock marker. Wonder, we'll always have a few people wander in afterwards. Just too late for me to get. Well, that's one that I can honestly say I must not officially be old yet because I don't sleep. I rarely sleep. So, yay, point one for me not being the old guy. Oh, and good news, we did actually get the corrected Dragon's Eye seal mugs. They came in today, so I was tickled to death about that. Not that I'm a perfectionist or quirky or anything, but I couldn't even bring myself to have a cup of coffee on the other ones with it reversed. It just bugged me. I couldn't enjoy my coffee. All right, so this has been an interesting week for me. As we discussed last week, Lilith and Samiel decided my Clifothic workings were going to get on hold so that I could shift over to a bit more focused on dragon magic-like practices and working on a specific ritual and trying to figure it out, which I have been doing. Not 100% sure I've made progress on it. I think I figured out the first place where I'm going wrong. That said, I have also been working on the Dragon Magic 101 class, which it's been a lot of fun because I've had to go back and there's dragons I haven't worked with in years that I'm going back, talking to, seeing exactly how they want their particular section of the path working set up. So this week, even though it's been full of ritual work, it's almost been more like I've just been spending time hanging out with friends, which is great. And oh, I did also film the video for the water dragon that will be coming up Tuesday. So we did get the water dragon, as y'all voted on last week. And he's actually a very, very unique dragon. I think y'all like him a lot. Let's see. I've been running around like crazy this week, so I'm trying to remember what all happened. Oh, well, the ritual, I did figure out that to get this ritual to work is actually going to push my evocation skills to a level I've never done. Because I'm essentially going to have to evoke 9 dragons to full evocation manifestation and maintain all 9 at once before I even get the ritual started. So, yeah, that's going to be crazy tricky. Part of me is actually wondering if I can do that. I'm really unsure about that one. But yeah. So how's everybody been doing this week? Good? And well, I stay pretty busy. I really do. Actually, that's probably a good point. I know a lot of you are used to me responding very, very quickly to messages and emails. And as the channel's getting bigger, I am getting hit with more and more emails and messages, and I am trying to get through them, trying to answer them. I just have to ask that y'all be patient. I will get back with you. I will answer. It just might start taking me longer than you're used to. Mainly because we can't retire. We have to do something. Even on vacation, if we take like a 2-week vacation, a weekend, we have to start having something to do. We can't. She does better at not doing anything than I do, though. I do my best, Erica. I really do. One reason I started this was to answer questions and oh, there goes the Jets tonight. Yay, okay. Anytime I start filming or shooting. And straight out of the gate, I knew I was going to have to answer questions because when I was trying to think of the videos to film to even get the channel started, there was always the question of what do people need to know? And I honestly think feedback's the best way to go with that. And answering those emails and those comments is really the best way to connect and find out what it is you all have questions with. And well, these live streams just took it to the next level. These live streams have helped a lot. You guys have always brought some wonderful questions into the live streams. In fact, speaking of which, I finally tracked down a copy of Dragonomicon. Y'all keep asking me about this book, and I had not read it. I'm halfway through it now, and Until I finish it, I can't say whether or not I recommend it. I'm over halfway through, though, and I've seen no applicable magic. So far, it's all theory and philosophy. That much I can say. But if you're interested in theory and philosophy, the first half of it's pretty interesting. It's well written in that category. But if you're wanting to learn magic that you can apply, so far the first half of the book, I can't say it's got it. But once I finish it, I'll actually give a better opinion on it. Took a while to track that book down, too. Though I will say, when it comes to like sources of magic and the progression of magic through culture and evolution, he has some pretty interesting theories on that. Have to give him credit for that one totally. Though it doesn't technically pertain to practicing dragon magic itself. So, and outside the dragons in Mesopotamia, he's not really mentioned any dragons at all. So I think it's again a system that seems to be very more symbolically based. But again, so far I haven't even actually seen the system. Oh, the philosophy is awesome. Most people, when they ask me about books on magic, my first question is, are you looking for philosophy and history, or are you looking for applicable magic? Because some books have both, some books have one or the other. And that is entirely what my recommendations are. Now, most people who've messaged me on this channel, they're looking for one thing and one thing only, and that is application. Because a lot of people get bored with philosophy, history, and theory. For me, I find that kind of stuff fascinating because if we understand how other people view it and think and processes, even if it doesn't necessarily fit with how we practice, it could still inspire us to research something else or give us a different viewpoint. So as far as the philosophy side, this is actually a fascinating book, and his theories are very well thought out. There's a few times he comes off a little, I don't know, maybe arrogant, kind of, this is how it is, end of story, but I don't think he means to do it. I think sometimes you just make statements and I don't care how you say it, it's going to come out that way. Does that make sense? Hello, Makeup Absolute. Good to see you, and thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. We are trying. We are definitely going to be focusing more on dragon magic because, yeah, my viewers have made it very, very clear that dragon magic seems to be what everybody's dying for. That said, I do have to do a follow-up video for the Pact video I did because I've been getting just spammed with emails on that video. So I'm probably going to try and shoot that video. I may actually shoot that and have it up after Tuesday's Water Dragon video, honestly. Oh, the Dragon Magic Basics class. Okay. For those interested in Dragon Magic, you're going to love this. We kind of had a file corruption issue. So the Candle Magic videos that were being edited, we got to reshoot them. That said, we are prioritizing the Dragon Magic class over the Candle Magic class now. Originally, it was going to be Candle Magic, Dragon Magic. Mm-mm. Um, everybody wants Dragon Magic, and we're going to deliver. So, with that said, we are planning on pricing the Dragon Magic 101 class at around $25 to $30. That's lifetime access to the class, and it's going to have a complete path working with all 4 of the first elemental rulers. So it's going to be a massive class. One of the people who was helping me film it and outline it said I'm putting too much into the 101 before you move into the 102. And I'm glad you like the seals, and thank you for supporting the channel. They are they're absolutely gorgeous, honestly. Every time I walk in. See ya, Erica. Thanks for dropping in while you could. And we are planning on doing, there will be 3 total courses for the Dragon Magic program. But we are going to break them up into a 101, 102, and 103. Mortimer, I get your point, and I kind of agree. When I pick up a book on magic and I want to read something and study how to do it and how to apply it, I a lot of the fluff bores me. In fact, one author who I love the practicality of a lot of his stuff, but his writings drive me bonkers because there's so much other just storytelling and fluff around it. E.A. Coetti. He has a really bad rap. I know the whole become a living meme concept. But if you separate all that and you just look at the systems, they can be very practical and usable. But getting through his books, it's hard. I know credit cards are taken. I don't know if PayPal is or not. I'll have to double check that. And that's because it's been so long since I've been in the back office, because we set the back office up for the meditation course. And I've been so focused on the live streams and the recording the videos and answering emails, I honestly forget. But I do know credit card is takeable. I want to say PayPal, but I'll have to check that one for you. I will. I have to check that one. I have a theory on that, Mortimer. I think most of what you see is kind of an advertising show. So it's kind of like in the videos, he might almost be playing a character or a persona. I seriously suspect behind the screen, he's a bit more down to earth. Because when you watch his videos and read his books, there's a very practical system. So I think a lot of it's really advertising. I think it's just advertising. But he's sharing info with people who otherwise couldn't get it. So we have different methods, but we seem to be on similar paths, I guess. Hey, Kane, welcome back, man. I'm really glad this ain't one of the groups where if your phone goes off, you owe everyone a beer. So, ha, muted it. Well, I hope you're right about that. Everyone's cooler online because hopefully I've pulled that off to some extent. I'm not sure I did. And anyone who's watched the Magical Coffee Hour has seen how many times I forgot to mute speakers or something. We've had echo. Oh my God, it's been horrible. Or I had to get up and go get something. Yeah. I don't know about cool. I'm just me. I do what I do. Kane, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I've actually noticed that too. And I brought that to which one was it? Nocturnerast, the ruler of the Dragons of Darkness. I was working with her first time that happened, or first time I noticed it. And the way she explained it is, but it actually sees into the nothingness. Hey, Peachy, that's okay, not a problem. It's always good to have you. Okay, for getting started, before we get the 101 class up, honestly, if I was to recommend a book, and I'm sure everybody knows that I do say Conway's a little on the Wicca, fluffy, love and light side, but of her books, currently standing, I do have to say Conway's probably one of the better ones to start with. And I'm torn on which ones I'd start with because her latest one, which I happen to have on my desk, this Dragon Magic Clans book that actually was released after she passed away, Dragon, the Co-Magician, and stuff like that. And it's a real practical, easy, approachable method. And it takes out all the extra clutter and bulk that, well, by the time she got to her second book, she threw out anyway. That's in Dancing with Dragons. Yeah, she passed away last year. It was actually sad for me to hear because I actually was, me and her messaged back and forth for a while. I was talking to her about some of my research, 4 or 5 years ago. So, and she encouraged me to dive deeper into it. So it was kind of sad that I wasn't able to get my work out in time for her to see it. But either that one or the Mystical Dragon Magic. Now, depending on how you want to go, this one is very simple, very, very easy. You can read through it and you can work through this real quick. This has a path working in it. And it's what she calls the 5 rings. I won't lie, in our courses, you won't hear the 5 rings used. But each ring or level in this path working, you spend 6 months in. So this covers a lot of areas of magic and different viewpoints. through a long extended path working. And it does go into your guardian dragon and your co-magician as well. So either of these two would be the starting book based on what you're wanting to do. But if you're not wanting to dedicate yourself to probably a year or more path working, this one's probably not the one to go with. Does that help? Honestly, if you look at what's come out after her, it's hard to call her fluffy because she's kind of more. I mean, she's not middle of the road. She does go into that lighter spectrum, but she's kind of here when everything else we're seeing is like over here. And I think she did a lot better work with mystical dragon magic because it's set up in the way that path working's set up. If you're doing your meditations and your trance work, you're going to tap into a lot of personal gnosis. And that personal experience with the dragons, that is really where it's at. And that's what our course and our path working is based on. It's that one-on-one direct gnosis. We're not telling you this is what you're going to find. We're setting you up to learn to work with them as an individual magician. Yeah, I did. I did mention that in an earlier video. If that's something people are interested in, yeah, we can film that. No, I've not read Fans Bandon or Barden. Is that the book title or is that the author? Because I know I haven't read a book by that title. And it don't strike me as a author I've read either. So yeah, but yeah, I can get that done. I didn't prioritize it because from all the messages and comments I've been getting, everybody's been having a lot of success with what's already been presented. But yeah, I can push that up on the list. Sadly, I only have so many hours in a week. My week's been pretty good, Peachy. I mentioned it a little earlier. I've been trying to tinker with that ritual that the dragons gave me, and I've never quite been able to get it to work. And Lilith and Samuel put my Clefothic work on hold to work on that and figure it out. As well as I've had to go back and talk to dragons I haven't spoken to in a long time in order to put this path working for this course together. Like where they tie in with those first 4 elements, they're going to be presented in this course, and naturally I've had to reach out and talk to, well, most of them. I didn't get to all of them this week. Oh, no, I don't think I have read any of his works. Honestly, I'm still trying to get through Crowley's and Mather's works. And I won't lie, when I started my practice, I was broke as a joke. And most of those books are expensive. And again, time's always an issue. So my reading has to go for my research or looking into other authors. And there's that balancing act. And now I'm even reading to try and do things for this channel. But it's always nice to be able to sit down and read and technically say I'm working. What magical system did I first get into? Okay, everybody can laugh. Wicca. Many of you who watch the Magical Coffee Hour know this already, but I did actually teach in the church. I grew up in the church. I taught children's church. I taught Royal Rangers. And I never actually had any bad beef with the church. In fact, a lot of the mentors and people who really encouraged me were actually pastors. But there was a point in my life where I was looking for something more. And my inquisitive brain, I've always looked at things more scientifically. So there's things that the church didn't have an answer for that was bugging me. And I really didn't know how to handle that. So I went on a theological search and I settled in on Wicca first. And the teacher I was working with who taught me Wicca also is the same individual who initiated me into New Orleans Bayou Voodoo. And at the same time all that was going on is when I was actually studying some of dragon magic as well. And that particular path and those entities just, I couldn't get enough of it. They didn't just feed my curiosity, it was that scientific side of me. They set aside the religion, the dogma, and all that. And they really started showing me the nuts and bolts of why these things worked. And if I had a question, they would answer it. There was none of the take it on faith. And for me, that was a huge thing. That was a first in my life where here's this path where they're not telling me to take it on faith or tradition. They're just saying, all right, you got a question, let's get you an answer. I will do that, Mortimer. Thank you. See, I was a little spoiled because Raven, my mentor, she actually got to do a lot of traveling, and she has a lot of handwritten translations that she's picked up. Unfortunately, she won't let me borrow them longer. So, we are having a little bit of a windstorm here tonight. So if I freeze at any point or anything, I apologize. But honestly, I think a lot of people start in Wicca. I mean, it's, especially back then, it was one of the most available. And I grew up in Kentucky. So it was hard to find anything. Ooh, you know, that's a huge question. Um, are you talking about the magic or are you talking about the condition? Because I have actually studied the vampire community for some time, and I find it fascinating. And at one point, people would say you got two sides of it. You got people who have an energetic condition where their body's not producing enough energy, and they need energy from an outside source. And you have that side of the community. And then you have those who adopt the vampire as a archetype. They don't have a condition. But it started dividing even beyond that now. And it has become a touchy topic because on both sides of the fence, I think we got people who give the community a bad name and people who actually are trying to help and gain understanding with the community. And then you got just vampiric magic, which we touched on a little in the Magical Coffee Hour in one episode, where this is magic where a magician is drawing power from another person to fuel their magic. Doesn't require a vampire to do it. It's just the practice and methods lend it to the vampiric name. Now, all that said, the condition. Over the years, I have to say, I think it's a real condition, energetically speaking. I've seen a lot of people who I have seen their health, physical, mental, and spiritual suffer if they're not supplementing their energy. And there are people who are working to try and isolate it and actually prove it beyond just, basic health markers. But I don't know if we'll ever see any research go far enough. And I think part of that's because, let's be honest, if you say I'm running medical tests on vampires, there's a good chance you're getting your license yanked. So it is a touchy subject, but from everything I've seen and in my own personal research, I have to say the condition holds up. I think we're getting there. We are getting there. As far as eating astral parasites, I don't know. Negative energy. Oh, what book was it? I want to say if you look up Michelle Bellinger's Psychic Vampire Codex, she talks about cycling energy down and utilizing that. I don't remember if she puts it in a vampire only point, but it's drawing that negative and cycling it down to where it's no longer negative, but it's usable. That, I think, is the only book right now where I've heard of anything like that. But then it's like there's a splinter in my mind. Like there is another book. I just cannot remember it. Now, well, when you're talking about transmuting, dragons do transmute energy a lot. Which, well, when you stop and think about it, it's not really that different. It's just instead of eating it, you're just transmuting it into something more usable for what you want. That is true. They do. In fact, I want to say it's the Strigoi V in their magical system uses the imagery and concept of the dragon a lot. Now that said, I have encountered dragons that do work within that vampiric current, but dragon magic itself isn't one of the vampiric magics. It's just when you have a system that can branch into, well, everything I've encountered so far, I always leave myself that one thing because I still expect to find something dragons won't work with. I haven't yet, but I expect it. You're going to never touch the vampiric current. But then that largely goes into the fact that dragon magic, draconian magic, and draconian vampiric magics, they really are different systems. I mean, that's why I did the video on draconian magic and dragon magic and pointing out their differences. They can work together, but they are different. Yeah, I'm not surprised. And honestly, dragons have, if we look at historical lore, every culture has some legend, story, or something about dragons, their power, and their connection with magic. So, I mean, it's inevitable that the only major difference that I've really encountered is application. Just like in the draconian magic versus dragon magic. In draconian magic, they work with entities, and as one person pointed out, most of those entities have a draconic form. Whereas in dragon magic, you're working specifically with dragons. And it's not an entity in a draconic form, it is a dragon. So it's just, its application and methods that's really separating it. And I mean, part of me wishes we could have better terminology, but I've sat down and thought of it, I mean, multiple times. I can't think of a better terminology. There just ain't one. More about battle magic? What's your question, Peachy? Ascarny, it really depends on the magician. Where dragons focus primarily on the balance, they understand that yes, you'll have magicians that they'll want to try and balance both sides, and that's fine. But you will also have right hand magicians and left hand magicians as the primary focus of their practice. And they're okay with that because for every left hand magician, there's a right hand magician balancing it. Dragons will work down either of the paths. They don't care. They'll go as dark or light as you want them to. The biggest caveat to that is occasionally they'll look to a magician and be like, hey, we need to balance this energy out over here. But right or left hand path, you got the tools in the toolbox to balance it. Conway definitely does put the Wiccan spin on dragon magic, but honestly, when it comes to spiritual or religious aspects, they don't seem too interested. They don't really care one way or the other. I know Christians who practice dragon magic. Where can you find more info on battle magic? That's actually a hard topic to find books on. Let me think here. Hold on. There is actually, oh crap. Let's see. There's a few books I've read on this topic that are pretty interesting. Um, I know everybody, when it comes to combat or attack magic, they're going to mention E.A. Coeding because he did that Baneful Magic one. Let's see. Gordon Winterfield did a great one called Magical Attack. Um, and my wife bought me a book, and she took it with her on deployment. And I think it was by Jason Miller. Was that the author? I'll have to look that one up. Well, you know what? I got a second screen here. Let me go ahead and see if I'm right on this. Yeah, that's it. That's the cover of the book. I recognize it. It's called Protection and Reversal Magic Beyond 101 by Jason Miller. And he does get into some of the more combative versions of magic. But go to galleryofmagic.com. A lot of their books are fascinating. And they cover a lot of those topics that other people won't, like the combat or attack magic book, like I mentioned. Yay, I'm in a dream. I was a guide. Okay, hopefully I didn't get you lost. And that's not weird. I mean, believe it or not, I actually get comments like that a lot. Uh, whew. Yay. I'm trying to catch back up here. Okay, Lino, yours where you said, can I talk about runes? And then you immediately put in chaos magic. Are you talking Norse runes or are you talking more like sigil magic and chaos magic? And Kane, yes, dragons do make wonderful guides for healing and other applications as well. I know a few shamans who work with them in that capacity. Yes, the Draconian Ritual book. Yes, the Draconian Path really does focus on a destruction and then rebuilding method, and it does so straight out of the gate. It seems. But you can do a left-hand path practice without going that extreme, and that's one reason we are working to get the Dragon Magic course out, because you can walk the path that's right for you while working with these entities. Now, that said, it's kind of hard not to run into some form of destruction if you're working with a Maelstrom or a Chaos Dragon. But as you pointed out at this time in your life, and if you're doing these path workings as we're laying them out, you've gone through all the other elements first. You've prepared yourself. So it won't be that bad. Because I won't lie, I dove into the Qliphoth like a dummy. And I think I opened up 7 or 8 of the Qliphoths from a book that it wasn't a complete book. It was more like just a kind of an intro, touch on, talk about it kind of thing. And naturally, I wanted to find out more. So I used the sigils they gave, and I would do my trance work and journey into the Qliphoth. And in 1 week, I opened up 8 of them, and I didn't close them. I didn't know what I was doing. Don't do that. That was a bad idea. I was a dumbass, and I paid the price for being a dumbass. That was a very, very rough year for me. I will say on the other end of it, I came out a better man. But was the harshness of my stupidity worth it? That's another question. No problem, Peachy. You know I'm happy to answer questions as best I can on pretty much any topic. As long as it's a topic that, YouTube will let me talk about. Okay, well, the Nordic runes are a huge, huge topic. And I think Sunday on the Magical Coffee Hour, Linda's actually wanting to talk about them as well. But you have 2 main sets that people work with. The Elder Futhark, which consists of 24 runes, and most people consider to be the older of the 2. And then you have the Younger Futhark, which you can already see how people are dating them by their names, which consists of 18 runes. Now, most people approach runes as a divination system, and they want to use it just like the tarot. And it can be used that way, but long before it was ever used that way, every rune was a spell, and in that spell was multiple levels of wisdom and knowledge that could be utilized. So in those 24 symbols is said to be all the powers of the multiverse, if one was to truly understand them and master them. My original rune teacher actually said you could spend your lifetime learning about one rune. But they are a cornerstone in Norse magic and sorcery. From bind runes, rune staves, golder magic. And one thing about the runes, especially in golder magic, it is actually spoken or vibrated. Otter, are you laughing at my stupidity? I don't blame you. It was not a bright decision. I felt like Ernest P. Worrell at the end of Ernest Goes to Jail, where he's like, I came, I saw, I got blowed up. That is actually how I felt. I really did. I can totally relate to Ernest. um, yes, I can. They're actually They're the three base elements in alchemy: mercury, salt, and earth, if I remember correctly. No, that's not it. It's yeah, I'm pretty. Yep, those are the three base alchemical symbols of creation. So, I mean, that's one of those things where, as you dive into that seal and start studying it more, you actually start diving into alchemy, because dragons do have a version of alchemy that they use. And in fact, it's a big part of the practice. You're not just manifesting things in your physical life or your spiritual life, you are making changes. You're cleaning house, building house. It's amazing what can happen. So it took me forever to figure out what those three symbols were, because alchemy was not an area I was familiar with. So, and you got to understand, when I channeled this thing, it was during an invocation, and they basically put energetic lines on a piece of paper, and I traced over them real quickly. And then I had to try and figure out what this thing was. And I won't lie, I've never channeled something that detail oriented and been given the assignment to try and figure it out and decode it. That was a new experience for me. And it's okay. Y'all can laugh at me for that stupid shit. I laugh at myself all the time. The Cliffothic spheres. Okay. Is it a real place? I'm going to say yes. In my experience, yes. I know there's a lot of people who say it's a psychological thing, but in my experience, I disagree. It's very real, because when it comes to soul travel, in my experience with soul travel and astral travel, these other realms are real. There's just way too many things I've experienced that it can't be a mental thing. Are they dark? Well, yeah, I think by most people's definition of dark, they would probably fall under that. Now, that's not to say they're evil. We do have to separate the word dark from evil, because it is the opposite side of the tree of life. The Cliffothic tree is the opposite side of the tree of life. So a lot of the Cliffothic rulers and beings are very dark gods, goddesses, and many demons, or what people today would call demons. Many of these entities were worshipped as gods before the church got a hold of them. And it can be a very harsh working, but it is about building oneself up and one's ascent and making oneself stronger and overcoming a great deal of things. And sometimes the only way to overcome something is for it to punch you in the face and you to punch it back. So it can get harsh. Now, some people find Cliffothic workings to build you up faster than the Tree of Life, but it is harsher. Where the Tree of Life isn't as harsh, but it might take a little longer. Does that help any at all with that? I mean, it's a massive topic, and it's something I've been diving into a little bit over the years. I'm not an expert on it. Honestly, I'm reading a lot. Asimov Mason's works on it right now. Good occult movies, novels that are semi-accurate. Oh, really? You're gonna do this to me? Oh man. Okay. I hate to say this because of the jokes I get. Check out the Dresden Files. I get called Harry Dresden way too much. Um, and those books are a little creepy to me because there are so many similarities. But if you're reading those books, they are very fantasy heavy. But as a practitioner, while I was reading them, a lot of the core concepts in those books are rock solid. And I really do wonder if Jim Butcher has a much greater understanding of the cult than he lets on. So, but yeah, I used to work as an investigator, and then I became a wizard. And ever since I was young, I've wore a trench coat of some kind. So, yeah. Luckily, I don't live in Chicago. That would just make it worse. Though, as somebody in one of the streams pointed out, Harry's always seen in raggedy t-shirts and stuff, and I'm usually wearing a button-up. I dress better. So, just saying, I'm better dressed. And I actually wear the hat. He don't actually wear the hat in the books. That's only cover art. And I've had my hat longer than the books has been out. So, yeah. Well, not this exact hat, but you know what I mean. But at the same time, I will say the books have been grateful in giving me short jokes to use on my wife. But yeah, that series is, like I said, it has a lot of concepts that are pretty accurate. That's the first one that comes to mind. They're a great series. I won't lie. With all the jokes and everything, I didn't want to like them. I really did not want to like them. Because there was like a good 3-year period where I'm getting reference to this guy, and I don't even know what they're talking about. I'd never heard of him. And once I figured out it was a fantasy book series, yeah, I didn't want to like them. Didn't want to like them. But damn, they're good books. And that's really the best one I can give because a lot of the books I've read all the old Elminster books. For those who read Ed Greenwood's works, and yeah, not very accurate. And outside that, I read a lot of Star Wars books. So a lot of my leisure reading that hasn't been focused on my research, like the Grand Admiral Thrawn novels that came out, that character, his tactics, the way he thinks and his mind works, I've just always been obsessed with. So that's where a lot of my leisure reading went. No magic in there, just crazy, scary, tactical alien. There you go. Constantine's act. Yeah. Yeah. Constantine is, they do a lot of good occult research there. That is a loaded question. Okay, when you say materialized dragons, Do you mean like materialized as physical as this coffee cup? Because I can honestly say, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think I've seen one materialize that fully. Okay. Okay, cool. So we are, okay. Just making sure. Because you're right, this is a loaded question, so I want to make sure the reference I'm answering on. Now, Invocation of Dragons. That is a high, like, I can't even explain. I've done invocations with deities and I've done invocations with dragons. Deities are actually easier to invoke and easier to recover from. I don't know why. I don't. I really don't. But it is doable. Now, the evocation. Evocation is actually a tricky business with dragons. And part of that is most people, when they evoke a dragon, they're trying to evoke a dragon's true form. That is generally a bad idea because dragons have a very primal, raw, energetic aura around them that deals in the exact things they work in. But the base of it will be the base element that they're associated with. So a very large dragon could affect an area that's as big as it. So for an example, you know what? Let's just tell you how stupid old Drake found this out. When I first wanted to see if I could evoke a dragon, I decided to do my co-magician. Many of you who follow the channel know he a chaos dragon and he a big son of a dragon. And as I was doing it, there was a resistance to it. And I kept the ritual going because I thought he was just being a butthead to make sure the ritual wasn't too easy for me. Now, I'm hearing noises in the house. I'm hearing rain. And I'm hearing like this thump, 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 thump of the door of the ritual room. And my wife has a cat, so I think the cat's at the door. But I finally get him evoked in his full form. And I look out the window because his full form won't fit in the house. So I'm trying to evoke him so I can actually see him out the window in the ritual room, or at least part of him. And I realized a massive, massive storm has blown in. And he makes it very clear we need to end the ritual, so I do. Storm clears as soon as he's gone. The thumping of the door stops. I go downstairs. I find out that as I went upstairs, as soon as I started the ritual, the rain, the wind, and everything started. And a minute or two before I came down the stairs, which is when we ended the ritual, it just stopped. It cleared up. My wife was filling me in on all this. And the cat had been in her lap the whole time. What was causing the door to thump was the wind and atmospheric shifts on the island we were on, which was Whidbey Island in Washington, was so heavy and the storm was so heavy that even the air in the house was moving around to the point where that door was thumping. A week later, we see a weather map, and there was actually snowstorms in summer in areas of Washington state right about the same time I'm doing that ritual. So this one event potentially affected a very large area of weather patterns because I was a dumbass. So what will happen with evocation with dragons is they will usually try to size down. And that's to help control that aura around them. And that's also the reason a lot of dragons take on a humanoid form. Because as they do that, it also controls that. So if you get into evocation with dragons, which this is something we're going to cover in the course, let them size themselves down. Let themselves take on a form that's more safe. Don't be an idiot. And what do you mean by who is a good initiator? Hey, Sacred Seven, good to see you. Glad you can make it. I don't think I've seen the Ninth Gate. I'll have to look that one up. Yeah, I actually, that windstorm actually flattened one of my neighbor's fences. But to be fair, Whidbey Island has high winds, and the dude had a large wooden fence with no air ventilation in it. That fence was going to get flattened one way or the other. I just showed him the error of his construction early. That's all. Oh, Mortimer, I shouldn't have told you that. I should not have said that. Oh, who do you need to work with first? Okay. This is something we're laying out in the course because evocation is it's a great practice. In my mind, it's one of the best ways to learn that, and working with them in trance work and astral travel. My recommendation for where to start is usually one of the first 4 elemental rulers. Terra Fauna actually seems to be one of the easier ones because as the ruler of Earth Dragons, she has a direct vested interest in the physical realm. That said, your guardian dragon and your co-magician are always a great go-to because you're going to be spending so much time working with them anyways. You're going to have that friendship, that trust, and they're going to be some of the easier ones to start doing invocation and evocation work with. And they're going to be able to match your workings and your vibrations easier, which will also make it easier. So I would start with either your co-magician or one of the first 4 elemental rulers. Well, we're still recording it. Right now, we're taking what I would normally teach in person and trying to get it on film. And my goal is to have it live on the school by mid-April. Peachy, I was not in New Orleans at time of tornadoes last year. So don't blame that one on me. Just saying. That, and I know a few Mambos in Louisiana. If I did something like that, they probably would have had my hide for it. So I try to behave when I'm in New Orleans. But the course, it will have the full path working with. We're making sure how you meet your guardian dragons in there, how your co-magician, a full path working with all 4 of the first rulers. And we're going to be focusing on meditation and trance work with the path workings, but we're also going to start touching on practices to get ready for full evocation. So as you work through the 101, the 102s, and the 103, by the time you're at the end of 102, you should be working in evocation with these dragons. In fact, yeah, actually, by the time 101, you'll be doing some form of evocation. And to clarify that, evocation is generally broke up into two major types. Some people will break it up into three. But the two major types is astral evocation, where you evoke an entity to the astral realm, and you yourself either travel to the astral realm to evoke them there, or you use a scrying device or something to view them while they're on the astral realm. And then there's physical evocation, where you evoke them to the physical realm. That's, the pinnacle of evocation. That's full evocation. The other one some people throw in there is what's called sigil evocation, where you'll open a connection with them with their sigil. So it's more like placing a phone call. They're where they hang out all the time. You're where you're at, and you're talking with them, but neither one of you have moved locations. Some magicians don't count that as evocation. Some do. So, It's possible. It is possible. I can't say dragons are the only ones who's been known to cause property damage. I saw when I was in Washington State, for whatever, I don't know what possessed them to do so, but they decided to do an evocation rite with Agrabota from the Norse pantheon. For those who don't know, Agrabota is a giantess who's known as the Sorrow Bringer, and basically destruction and sorrow is about the only thing she's known for. Well, that, and she's the mother of Loki's children. Everyone involved in that ritual, their life went to hell after that. I mean, it did. It did not end well. And it was weird because they were trying to make her, if you read the legends about her, it's very clear she's not a very nice entity. And they were trying to market her as the full, loving, compassionate mother who loves everyone, even the unlovable. And this is one of those times where do your research, know what you're working with, because you can't just rewrite and make an entity what you want it to be. Yeah, they did. And honestly, not all frost giants are absolute buttholes. You do have to understand that if you read the Norse myths, the giants and the Asgardians do actually work and interchange a lot. But a good chunk of the frost giants are very, very destructive. And Agrabota is very much a full-on destructive one. So yeah, that I to this day I couldn't explain why they did it, why they thought it'd be a good idea, and why they thought an entity whose entire lore is based around destruction and sorrow would just magically change their stripes. You know what? That actually is kind of a beef for me too. Uh, I'll be honest. If you ask me if I have any guides in the sense that most people talk about, and oh my God, I got head from hell. Um, I'm going to say no because I've never had an angel, I've never had a spirit, I've never had anything like that ever watching over my shoulder, ever guiding me along. If so, I got a lot of hospital bills that person and guide needs to answer for. Uh, and I've done all these meditations for guides, and I've honestly never had a successful one. Never. Now, that said, when I was trying to figure out what deity I might want to work with in Wicca, I didn't get an answer. And ironically, it wasn't until I stepped outside the religious parameters and just started focusing on magic when I did start getting an answer from a god and goddess. And that was actually Odin and Freya, which is why I became so interested in Norse magic. Though, granted, when I first looked them up, the book I picked up did not paint the Norse very well at all. It painted them as liars, cheaters, murderers. Very, very bad viewpoint on the culture, which is why I always say get more than one book. Because that turned me off. I walked away. It was years before I went back. But I was still young and stupid in my practice. So, but to this day, they're not guides. They're allies and friends, and they weren't watching over me. They were both interested in my curiosity and my drive and pursuit to understand magic and the multiverse. That's why they reached out for me. And they didn't want me to do so in a religious spectrum, which is why they didn't do it until I gave up on the religious side of magic. That said, most people would say, well, what about your dragons? They're not guides. Both my guardian dragons that you all hear about, Yin and Yang, those two rascals did not watch over me, did not protect me, were not guiding me until I reached out and tried to contact a guardian dragon, which it was not a one-hit wonder. It took me several times doing that ritual to get a response. And my co-magician, Vito, he took longer to get in touch with. And again, he wasn't watching over me and guiding me. So as far as that traditional ideal of a guardian angel or guide, if I got one, I don't know about it, and they've never answered any of my calls. So I'm at the point, I've dialed, I left messages, I give up. They can call me if they want to contact me. So, for some people, the guides thing works. It's just not been something I've had much luck with. So, I mean, even when I was studying voodoo, I forget who it was. Because of how well I got along with Baron Samedi, they referred to him as my guide. And I flat out asked him, and he was like, nope. He made it very clear until I approached that family lines and initiation, he didn't know who I was. He liked me, but till that point, he wasn't interested. So I'm kind of on the fence of I'm not going to say guides aren't a thing because there's too many people who's had experiences for me to just throw it out. But I can say I'm definitely one that's never had one. I've never had that experience. So I can totally relate to you. Thoth is an interesting deity to work with. I've worked with Thoth a few times, not as much as I'd probably like to. Okay, and that's why I said I got some doctor bills and stuff because there's been some really, really, really dark times in my life. Um, I don't know. Maybe my guides manifested as some of the people in my life because I can think of 2 times in my life where I was going to do something very, 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 very stupid that would probably get me killed. And both times, one of my friends stepped in and talked some sense into me. So, you know, that is true. There is a difference in want and need. You are correct. So, and sometimes understanding the need is the hard part because honestly, I wouldn't be the person I am without the dark times. That's one of the things, you always get that question asked, would you go back and change anything? Probably not. Because a lot of the stubbornness, the resolve, and everything I have that makes me the magician and the mage I am really comes from that. Maybe. But that's why it's really hard for me and some spiritualists because, like I said, I do take a very scientific approach. So, not having the ability to be able to literally say that, yes, I know I've had this experience, it's I don't do well on taking things on faith or probability. So if they acted through my friends and I don't know it, I personally can't say I've had that experience. Whereas, the other allies and entities I work with, I have had direct experience with. So, does that make sense? It's not that I'm putting them down because I'm not. And for those people who found them and have them, awesome. It's just I haven't, and in fact, for the first time, I'm probably going to say I'm actually happy I don't have that experience because that gives me the ability to relate to someone like Hazrini. I can never get your name right, man. Um, and that's a unique position to be in. So I think I'm actually grateful for it now because that does give me that ability to reach out and relate. Oh, and Peachy. Yeah, you do get a lot of that. Now, I do seek a lot of answers from entities I've made allies with. Um, I mean, anyone who watched Magical Coffee Hour last week, they know I don't work a lot with Thor, but prior to last week's episode, I actually went and talked to him about specific topics because I needed his viewpoint. So I have no problem going to entities for answers. That's one reason I love trance work and evocation so much. That's how we learn. But when it's just like ask your guides, it's like that's a pretty vague answer. Could you give me a bit more detail? I have looked into a Bromelain a little. Um, I recently just got a copy of his book because most every time I've tried to get a copy, I couldn't, and it was always little bits and segments that were tucked into other books. But a lot of his magical square magic and stuff, at least the ones I've played around with, I've had some reasonably good results with. But I used them more. I activated them more like sigils, so I don't know if I used them as he would. Like I said, I've not sat down and read through his book yet, but I'm actually wanting to read through his book this year for sure and find out his exact system because I always worry when someone tucks something else into another book, it's not being used in its original method. Not that that's a bad thing, because I've said many a times I love working with the Goetic spirits, but I don't use the Goetic system because I prefer to approach them as an equal in respect as opposed to browbeating them. So it's just I do want to actually look into his works directly. Yeah, it does. Sour grapes, Oscar. What? It does make sense. A lot of people do get along with certain entities better than others. And a good example of this, me and angels, I work with them, and some of them I get along with, and if I need to work with them, I can. They're not entities that hang around me a lot. And I really truly believe it's personality conflict. They're very by the book, very, this is how you do it, let's do it. There's no flexibility, there's no wiggle room. And that mentality drives me bonkers. So that's the main reason I don't work a lot with angels. But at the same time, working with demons, they're very chaotic. They love breaking rules. You want to see if we can do it? Let's see if we can do it. So their personalities I get along with. Dragons, they're kind of middle of the road on both of those extremes. And they're really about that knowledge and learning and balancing out those two things, which is really very much my personality. So regardless of what I want to work on today, the dragons are like, hey, let's do it. Let's see what we can get and do. And I think that's why I get along with them. And in fact, you look at the deities I work with, they also seem to have that same logical yet chaotic nature to them. So, yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. And if you're getting results in your practice and it's working for you, I say go for it. I really don't put one entity above another. I actually do have that. That's actually on the docket. We are doing a trance work video because I really think a lot of people overlook the power of trance work. Honestly, I'd say 90% of my career was based heavily in trance work until I got into evocation. And when I got into soul travel, I picked it up easily. And I believe this. I picked it up easily, not because I'm just gifted. Lord knows I'm not. But because I had done so much trance work, the transition was just easier. It's been a while. My experiences with Thoth, he actually reminded me of oh, kind of your serious college professor if they were to teach magic. Very knowledgeable. I mean, it's like if you handed him a book, he knew exactly where every answer in the book was. He's read them all. And he always came across very helpful to me, though it's not like if in my experience, he tried to steer you more to finding the answers by giving you this little piece of information, and he would have you study it so that you go over to here, and then you're studying that, then you're over here. So you would get to where you're going, but the path he would set up for you, you would learn so much more getting there than if he'd just given you the answer outright. He was actually probably one of the first entities I worked with that made me think of the quintessential mage personality type. Yeah, old school in a good way. Yep, that's pretty much a good way of putting it. I've not read the Holy Demon yet, and I couldn't even compare it because I've not read a Bromelians. I'll have to add that to my list of books to get a hold of, though. After I finish a Bromelians, I'll have to look into it. I do notice we're getting a lot of books that are getting vaguer and vaguer. And I wonder if that's just people trying to monopolize on the fact that there's so many people seeking now. But I don't want to say that because so many grimoires were written very vague on purpose. And an advanced magician can take those grimoires, look at them, and unlock their secrets, but a beginner could not. I'll definitely look into it. I will. I always love when people drop a book on that I've not really heard about or read. And as long as I can afford it or get a hold of it, I enjoy them. That's how I ended up with the Dragonomicon. People's been asking me about it, and I was like, I don't know. I've not read it. So I got it, and I've been reading it. And like I said earlier, it's more philosophy and theory so far, and I'm over halfway through it. So we'll see if there's anything applicable in there. So, no, these are great questions. Great questions. Oh, and in the dragon class, we'll also get you started on your staff, because one thing I get questions about in dragon magic is tools. Because if you've read Dancing with Dragons, there's like this whole chapter and like this massive amount of tools she wants you to get. Technically, all you need is a staff, which I'll probably be doing a YouTube video on the staff in dragon magic, what it means, how it's utilized, and stuff like that. Because essentially, if you got a place to rest your rear to use as a workspace and your staff, you're good to go. Staff. The sword concept that she presents, it's funny because I don't think she mentions swords again in any other book past Dancing with Dragons. And I have never once had a dragon ever make a comment to me about having a sword. And which is funny because I actually do have quite a few swords in this house. I took sword fighting for years. Um, but the staff, the dragons actually see the staff as a much more appropriate tool and symbol. There's a lot more that goes along with it. See, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, that's like the Goetic, because I remember we pathworked the Goetia, and the first pathworking we did, we laid it out with literally by the book. And I'm talking like the 9-day preparation ritual with the fasting and everything. And I remember one of my first thoughts is, who has time for this? Okay, it's actually a series of books that I would recommend. And that is the Temple of Witchcraft series by Christopher Pencak. The first 4 books in that series, he really does go into a lot of aspects of magic. And he's designed it for more of a solitary practitioner. I mean, it does talk about Wicca and witchcraft and the religious side, and it gives history, but it goes into a lot more depth and detail on a lot of things, and it really builds on those concepts well. If I was to teach like just a witchcraft course, I would probably use his books, because the first one is Inner Temple. So it focuses on you and getting you right and setting up all your inner spaces. And then he moves to Outer Temple, which now we're starting to affect the outside world. And then he goes into Shamanic Temple, which now he's starting to teach a lot of shamanic practices, soul retrieval, shadow work, stuff like that. And the final one is, I want to say it's High Witchcraft is what it's called. Temple of High Witchcraft, where he gives a very easy and approachable lesson plan for ceremonial magic. So those 4 books give you a very broad baseline. And in all honesty, those 4 books will replace most people's bookshelf of 101 books. Now, mind you, they're not dragon magic. This is just speaking from a base magical thing. Which, when this video uploads, I'll make sure to drop the links, because they are some of my recommended books. And I think they may have even been linked in the Dragon's Eye Seal video, if I remember right, because I've been getting constantly asked what books I recommend. So I actually went through and done a list. Nope, they're not in that video, but I'll add them to that video anyway. And they are affiliate links that I list there. So you click on them. If you do buy it, I'll get a small kickback to support the channel. It's not a lot, but they'll probably give me 50 cents. If you buy the book. If you just click the link, I don't get nothing. But we're trying to get some support in so we can do some improvements on equipment and stuff like that. Which, by the way, for everyone who has actually bought the like the Dragon's Eye Seal canvas or the coffee cups, And thank you very much. I'm glad everybody enjoyed and liked those. Mortimer, you got a point. They were written on. Oh wait, I might be able to actually drop those here, mightn't I? Oh, hadn't thought of that. See if I can do that. I didn't drop the links in there, Pink. Remember, you're talking to a technological idiot. I keep forgetting I can put links in chat. Let's see if this works. Nope. Okay, I can only put half the links in. There we go. All right, there you go. Both of those links should take you to the first and the second book. I plan on uploading them all to the description when I upload the video, Peachy. I honestly should have been doing that with more videos, but I've been kicking back. I've been going back and forth. Like, should I actually do this? Should I not? So, rest well, David. Thank you for joining us. Well, what I'm going to start doing, just so you all know, I am going to start compiling a list of books that's on the topics I'm asked about the most. So Pencak's books, the books I recommend on evocation, the topics I get asked about most. And I'm going to start putting those in the description of all my videos. And honestly, if you want to support the channel without buying anything, as long as Amazon lets me use those affiliate links, because technically we've put in, but then it's like, hey, you have access, but we still have to approve you. So we're still not approved. But as long as they're active, if you click them, you don't even have to buy the book. You can go shopping on Amazon. If you need to buy anything from Amazon, click one of my links, and whatever you buy, it'll help support the channel. I sound like a beggar saying that, but it's the truth. And we're trying to do more and more with this channel, so I'll be honest, what I'm looking and hoping to buy soon is we need some better lighting so we can do more shooting than just here in the office, and sound equipment, because we're still trying to get rid of these jet noises and stuff. Okay. Like I said, I've told y'all before, I was raised in the South. We're not shy, but let's just say when it came time to pass the offering plate in church, I wasn't the guy you wanted to ask. I don't like asking for stuff. I try to give value. Does that make sense? Honestly, if several of you hadn't messaged me and asked me about coffee cups, we wouldn't have these. So y'all's the reason we got coffee cups now. So I should thank you because this freaking thing's gorgeous now that they actually printed it right. I guess we got a limited edition here since this one was printed wrong and upside down. We might do a giveaway for that one. So, any more questions? I mean, you guys have been great tonight. Well, actually, I'll be honest. I can't think of a live stream where you all haven't been great. I seriously thought some of these live streams I'd be in here talking to myself. That ain't happened yet. Really? Bike week? I know a lot of bikers, but I never would have thought of advertising what I do at a bike week. Huh. Well, right now we don't have a lot of stuff. Someone was asking if I could do stickers or posters of sigils for the dragons. I think one person even asked if I could get sigils on coffee cups. I guess I could. I don't know why you would. Well, I guess having a sigil of your favorite dragon, maybe. It is going pretty well. It's crazy because I figured out I should say step one, because this is going to be like a 3-step ritual. And step one, I have to bring all 9 elemental rulers into full evocation and hold them there. Then move to step 2. And from my understanding, that's where I totally flubbed up the last few times I tried this, because where I hadn't brought them into full evocation, they weren't able to ground out and balance the energies that step 2 was going to bring to place. So when I got to step 2, that's when everything went pear-shaped and I passed out. And I'm intimidated by this ritual. I won't lie. Freaking intimidated. Because even now that I know technically how to avoid my original mistake, it's looking at it like, can I actually do that? I mean, I think I have a better chance of running a marathon tomorrow than that. And in case y'all don't know, I unless something's chasing me, I don't run. In fact, you'd need something chasing me like a clown with an Uzi and margaritas at the end before I might actually consider running. I'm not a runner. So, but it's going well in figuring out the pieces, because at least I do now know what I need to work on. And once I can get that section in place, then we can start working on stage 2. I'm the same way. I know people who run for fun. One of the friends I met when we moved here, they run marathons for fun. And I don't get it. I've done a lot of stupid things for fun, but running has never been even remotely close to the fun category for me. So I don't know. I mean, paintball, Cool. Survival camping. Sounds stupid, but I do that for fun. Not running. Hey, Mathis, you made it. I did start at 7. Just saying. Which, how was the 7 o'clock start time for everybody? Did that work somewhat okay? That didn't throw any monkey wrenches around for anybody? Because if that makes it more accessible to our friends across the pond, we might start doing that. Hey, no problem, Kane. I'm actually considering doing a second stream and trying to work it out so the time is more focused for across the pond. I can't say it's just going to be a replay because these things are live and random, so there's no way to just do 2 shows. So, but right now, if the 7 o'clock start time is working real good, we may just stick with it. In fact, at least for the Friday streams, we'll stick with the 7 because we did have a really good turnout tonight. Hey, Cruises, you want to pop in on lunch? You pop in on lunch. We're happy to have you either way. Yeah, it does take some focus. I had the same problem. I was always, it's like, oh, I want to try that. 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 And I did not make a lot of progress at those points. Now, one thing I do, if I'm focusing in on a path working, I literally try to focus. So, for those of you who heard that I spent a year doing a Norse path working with Norse sorcery, that whole year, if I needed to do something magically, I did everything I could to rely only on that system, only on that path working. So I forced myself to flex my muscles in that area, even though it would have been easier for me to go call up a dragon for that reason and be like, hey, I need to get this done. So when I do a path working like that, I do try to put all my focus in on it, which the dragons don't mind. So that's handy. Now, if you work with an entity that's going to be like, hey, you've been missing a year. Where the hell you been? You might want to let them know what's going on ahead of time and work that out with them. None of the entities I work with have an issue when I do that. But that focus really does help. But I do understand for people like me, you want to learn as much as you can. You want to get your hands on it. It's hard sometimes. You really do have to make yourself focus. The classes are going really, really well. We did kind of have a foo bar. We had a file corruption on the candle magic class, so there's going to be a delay on the candle magic class. But we're shifting more focus over to the dragon magic class because there's more people who clearly want dragon magic and they want a resource for that. So that's going to be our priority class out first. And we made a lot of great progress on it this week. In fact, there's, as I've said earlier, there's dragons I haven't talked to in a long time that I've had to go back and speak with them and exactly find out how they want their part in the course laid out. Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. They can be some of the most stubborn entities I've worked with. Um, I was trying to think of a way to say it nicely, but they're stubborn little shits. They really are. And if they don't want to work with you, they're not really going to do it. So, like the nine elemental rulers, they're easy to get in contact with. They're easy to work with because it's part of their job. It's in their job description. As long as they hold the position as that elemental ruler, it's in their job description. So, as long as you work within the dragon etiquette, you treat them with respect, you actually build a genuine friendship with them, they will work with you. Of course, your guardian dragon, when you meet it, as long as you treat it with respect and you treat it like a friend and an ally, it'll work with you. Same thing with your co-magician. Every other dragon can completely make its choice regardless. Um, Now, there are occasions where a dragon will be given, like, I need you to help this magician. And that dragon may not be overly happy, but okay, fine. The elemental ruler's telling him to help you out, so he'll help you out. After that, if he don't like you, he ain't gonna work with you. And that's one of the reasons that's the hardest part about dragon magic is building those relationships. So when I was building out my dragon magic course, we knew that we wanted more than just the nine rulers. We wanted to actually introduce the person going through this path working to more than just that. So, like, you'll have in the Earth Dragons path working, you'll have the ruler and 4 or 5 other dragons that you'll be working with. So, part of that was we had to make sure all these dragons would be willing to do it, regardless of who's coming into the course. Luckily, we found them. Which, like Expoon Well, the Dragon of Prosperity that we did a video on last year, he's one of the dragons in the course, and he's pretty easygoing. But yeah, they can be stubborn. Even once you befriend them, uh, if they perceive a way for you to learn a lesson that would be better, even if it's not quicker, they will dig in and make sure you learn it that way. But at the same time, it's actually usually good because the dragons that work with you, their personalities and everything, they click better. Yeah, I have played Skyrim. I won't lie, that's one of my guilty pleasures. If I need a game where I can veg out and do nothing and just get lost, I go to Skyrim. I can't count the number of times I've created a new file on that game. Which I actually always found it interesting in that game how the dragon's magic comes from voice and which is, if you think about it, voice is vibration, and the bulk of draconic communication is vibration. So I don't think they meant it, but there is a correlation there that I think just happens to be a coincidence. Okay, Mathis, I'm not sure I get the reptilian joke. I missed it. Oh yeah, yeah. I make sure these are always replayable because honestly, you all ask questions and stuff I wouldn't even think about bringing up. That's why I'm so glad we can do this because they're always great questions. Oh, I glit. Yeah, we got windstorms again. So yeah. Well, if I'm a reptilian part of some super secret organization with financial power, I missed the memo. Oh, that's a deep question, Kane. That's deep. I like that. Um, I've never actually thought about how to define it, but really they kind of run together and overlap for me. I don't really separate them all that much because mysticism to me is working with entities and bettering oneself in the spiritual realm and or multiverse, and magic is a part of that. Now, it's true, most people who study mysticism, a large part of them don't give one rat's rump about the physical realm. My viewpoint is I disagree because if I want to focus on mysticism, I want to focus on building myself up, and whether you call it ascension, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. Ascension is usually the best word. It actually makes the most sense to most people. But you need the time to do it. You need the resources to do it. And you're going to get that time and resources by bettering yourself in the physical. And so to me, they really run together. They're one and the same to me. And I use them to do both. So I do use magic to aid me in the physical realm. Um, so, yeah, I use magic to help with my career, to help with our finances, to help with my wife's career. And there's another glitch. But at the same time, I would say 80% of my work is also about building my knowledge base and my understanding to build me up to that ascension point. But to me, it really is one and the same because in order to have the time to do the research and practice my craft to do that, I have to make sure everything's taken care of on the physical side too. Does that make sense? In do I the reptilians exist in my experience? I don't know. Um, when it comes to dragons, the dragons don't claim any existence of reptilians, and I can't say I've had any encounters one way or the other to prove or disprove. Well, okay, maybe disprove because reptilians are generally considered intelligent. And I'll be honest, if they're infiltrating our government, I don't see how reptilians and intelligent can go together. Because, yeah, our government's pretty freaking stupid. But, so I'm on the fence. I'm not saying people who say reptilians are out there are crazy because I've seen enough weird crap. I can't say it's not there. But at this point in time, I can't say I've seen anything to say, yeah, it's there. Yeah, you can use magic to get money. In fact, there's a prosperity spell on my channel where it's one of my favorite prosperity spells. And I literally used that spell to go from bankruptcy, couldn't pay bills for food, to both me and my wife having a prosperous career we both love and enjoy, and actually having a savings account. But now, mind you, when you say you can use magic to get money, it manifests through channels and avenues and pathways that are opened. It doesn't just present a big bag of money on your desk. I wish it did. Yeah, I keep missing my invitation to the Take Over the World meeting. Oh, ooh, man, you got me good. Faith. I would say it does. In the form of faith as in blind faith, because I don't do well with faith. My practice is results based. If I can't get results 85% or better of the time I do a spell or ritual, to me, that's no good. It's not useful. And people say my standards are too high. Fine, I agree, but I do approach it very scientifically. Um, that said, I will say that you need to not doubt it. If you do a spell or a ritual, you can literally undo it if you spend the whole time doubting it. So if you've heard the analogy, once you do the spell, walk away, forget it, don't think about it. That is a great concept, because if you're not thinking about it, you're not doubting it. And doubt is the biggest enemy of the magician, because you can literally undo your own spell with doubt, because you will start manifesting non-manifestation. But yeah, that particular spell, it's a long-term prosperity spell. And if you do the spell as it's set up, you will find it opens pathways to prosperity in your life. And it will take time, but it's a long-term spell. And every time it opens an avenue, think of it this way, it moves you one check across prosperity. Well, that means it's going to keep moving you one step at a time, so your baseline prosperity is better than it was last time. And it continually builds and grows like that. And one reason I like long-term spells over one-hit wonders is because they also help circumvent that doubt faith line. Because if you're continuing to do a spell like that one set up, then the fact that you're continuing to go in there is continuing to build that energy of it up, and doesn't really give you as much time to doubt it. And it's a lot easier to do that for some people than it is to do a spell and forget about it. I know a lot of people who will do a spell, and then they spend the next month wondering where it's going to manifest, how it's manifesting. Well, I ain't seen it, so it must not be working. And they completely just destroy it. I have not read their wealth magic book, but I really want to. But if I had to guess from the rest of their other works, it probably is very similar. That's why I think that's one reason I love their books. I kind of understand their thinking process there. Hey, there's actually truth to that statement. Make a sandwich. A, doing something mundane, normal, and eating will help you ground a ritual out any excess energies and stuff like that without even having to think about it. And B, because you are going and doing something that's normal and mundane, it makes it easy not to think about the spell work you just done. Where have I heard that make a sandwich before? There is an author or somebody who always says, go make a sandwich. Oh, that's going to bug me. But yeah, Gallery of Magic, their books are really good. In fact, when it comes to evocation, their book, what is it, Demons of Magic? I think that's one of their books. For working with the 72 Goetia and starting to learn evocation, that's usually a book I recommend. Yeah, Damon Brand. So, I mean, early on, I knew when I was going to have to answer questions about some of the demons and evocation. I picked up a lot of books, and his was one of them. And hands down, his is one of the best I've read on the subject. Of course, that was when the channel was small and I had more time to read. Oh, Damon Brand's the one who says about, okay, that's why I recognize it. Yeah, okay. That's why I recognize it. I read a lot of his books last year. I also like how they touch on topics a lot of people won't. Like, they did an entire book on seduction magic. Of course, I've also noticed a lot of people who get said book are a little disappointed with it because it's not the, hey, look, I can date a celebrity now that they thought it would be. So, but yeah, the Dragon Magic course, we are still perfectly on point for mid-April. So far, I'm still right, and Raven and the others who have been helping me figuring out the timing and filming are wrong. And I'm dead set to get that out mid-April just so that I don't get them. They don't have the right to say I told you so. Can't let them do that. So, cost of the course right now, it's looking to be $25 to $30. In fact, I don't plan to let it go over $30. And that will be lifetime access to the course, including any updates. So you can go back, rewatch all the video footage and all that, all the path working, all that. You can rewatch it. And if later on we update it or clean up a video, the updated version's free also. And like I said, that's going to be the first of 3. I won't lie. My goal is to have it at $25. That's my goal. I'm glad we decided to break it into 3 courses instead of just one massive course with one big price tag. So much more cost efficient for people. Yep, that's the cost of the classes coming. So as long as I can, as long as I stick within my outline of all 3 of the courses, each course should be right around $25, $30. And there's going to be 3 of them. And they're going to be pretty long courses because, and you figure there's a path working for each of the 4 elements in the first course. So working through the first course alone will take more than a month. And you're getting all that knowledge, all that experience for $25. Yeah, that first course will have more than Conway's books. And I don't know what they run now. I know when I bought them, they were about $20 a piece. So that's a pretty good deal. Right. That keeps coming up. And I've wanted to do it. I've thought about doing it, but I have a hard time organizing my thoughts in a way that flows in a written format very well. Yeah, $25 for a course, lifetime access. I know you think I'm crazy, don't you? But now, here's the reason I did this and why I want to do this. Because I know I can't really do a book. And if I did a book, it'd probably be like a really short pamphlet style book. But I actually enjoy filming these. And when I did the meditation course, I took all my meditation classes and crammed it into one course for $100 that took you from never meditated before, setting up meditation space, introduction to meditation, went into movement meditations, guided meditations, and even started touching on some aspects of trance work. So there's this massive course that really would probably take up 3 or 4 meditation classes in and of themselves for $100. Not a lot of people have that kind of money to spend. And yeah, I've actually got a lot of people expect my courses to be $200 or $300 each part. But I think I can honestly, breaking the Dragon Magic course up like this, I really do think I can make it cost efficient to do it around 25 or 30. I really do. Plus, my goal here is to actually get this information out. And if you think about it, once the course is made, people can keep buying it just like a book. So I'm thinking long term instead of just quick, woohoo, I got $200 now. And I've always tried to approach my classes that I teach in person and everything in a very blue collar, common man practice. I try not to do too much. Honestly, I think a lot of people, I feel people gouge in pricing. I really do. Yeah, Kundalini can correlate with Dragon Magic. It's not a requirement, but at the same time, there's a ritual that I teach in the course. It's called energy cycling. It can be used in other practices than Dragon Magic, but the basic concept is you start pulling in the dragon's fire. And the first time you do this, you'll be doing it with all 4 of the elemental rulers. So this is all 4 elemental rulers, or the 4 base elemental rulers. 4 different dragon flames that you're pulling into yourself, and you're pulling that energy up through your energy centers, and you're filling yourself up with it to the point where you overflow. During this ritual, a lot of people have had their Kundalini energy raise with it. And I've also seen people who raise their Kundalini first, then do the ritual. And we've gotten some really neat results with it. mentioned both times. And I know one person who does Kundalini, and he made sure his Kundalini didn't rise with it. And he actually said the effects and sensations were very similar, even without doing the Kundalini exercises, just letting that dragon's fire fill him so entirely. He said the experience was very similar. And he almost wanted to say it was almost stronger. And he wondered that if he'd done it with all 9 rulers, if it would be the stronger, because at that point he hadn't done it with all 9. And no, he still hasn't done it with all 9. Which that's something I'm actually wanting. I'm wanting to see if when he does it with all 9 of the rulers, what his feedback would be. But there is definitely a correlation there. And they can be worked with together or completely separate. And for the people who do a lot more Kundalini than I do, they find the sensations to be very, very comparable. I can say they're comparable because I've worked with Kundalini some, but it's not a practice I've dived in enough that I don't feel I'm qualified to say, yep, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. I'm not qualified there. Not necessarily, no. If you go to the channel and you type in Astral Sanctum, we have a video on Astral Sanctums, which is a meditation where you do build your own little, well, let's call it a pocket world, because it can look like anything you want. And you can use meditation combined with your Astral Sanctum to work with them in that method. And a lot of people will say that's on the astral realm. But you can also just use meditation, though. If you're just using meditation, you need to be able to perceive their communication in some way, whether it be using arcane sight, arcane hearing, or, clairvoyance, clairaudience. And that's largely because dragons do communicate very, very heavily. Most people say telepathically, but when you start working with them more, you realize it's less telepathic and more vibrational. It's like they literally make the environment vibrate in a way that's how you're hearing their voice, even though it does feel like they're just psychically beaming a voice into your head. It's weird. Yeah, they're Thum. To work with dragons? No. The biggest, actually, I know you for this course. The biggest thing I would say that could help you get ready for this course is meditation. If you have an understanding of meditation, you are good to go. Everything else will be included in the course. Because dragon magic is meditation and trance work are kind of the starting cornerstones, which trance work is a very deep form of meditation coupled with visualization. It is very broad. So, and that's a good point. So, sit down, do your meditations, and focus on your visualization skills in meditation, and focus on your ability to hear responses during meditation. If you focus on those 2 points, you're good to go. And there is on the channel, we have the Arcane Senses video where I talk about arcane sight and arcane hearing. We give some meditation exercises to develop both of those. One thing that it sounds silly, I mean, it sounds goofy, but this meditation trick can help you develop them like that. Pick a fictional character you enjoy, a fictional character you would like to talk to. Sit down, meditate. In that meditation, picture yourself somewhere at a table. They're sitting across from you, and have that conversation. Yes, this is in the realm of make-believe for this meditation, but what you're doing is you're actually training your ability to visualize. You're working on your visualization, because visualization, that's all it is your ability to perceive something in your head. But you're also teaching your brain to register a response from something other than you. Even if it's your imagination creating the response during this meditation, you're still training your brain there. So between now and mid-April, if you start practicing what we go over in the Arcane Senses video and that simple, goofy little meditation, you'll be more than ready for the course when it comes out. Is that helpful? Because you're right, meditation is massively broad, so let's narrow it down to exactly what we need to work on. And I'm serious, have fun with it. You want to talk to Deadpool, do the meditation, use Deadpool. Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, I don't care who you want to talk to. But I do say fictional characters for a reason. This meditation, I had someone who was using it on and carrying on conversations with people they knew during the meditation. And they would accidentally end up evoking a piece of that person. So the person would end up having dreams or memories of these conversations. And so try to keep it a fictional person, or be aware that if you're having a conversation and you're using a real person you know, they might have a memory of the conversation. So be careful, because if you're wanting to like totally gush and tell that hot redhead how much you like her and, you know, some of the things you might want to do with her, she may have a memory of that, and then you just got egg on your face. Of course, it could work out for your benefit too, but you get the point. I know people who take these private meditation style goofy conversations and they just go hog wild with them, and then it was somebody that exists in real life and they have memories of a conversation that this person thought was completely 100% private. So I want to put that caveat out there. There's a reason I said fictional character. So yeah, that would be hands down the best place to start. And if you do this meditation 3 times a week, you'll make a lot of progress. Heck, if you do it daily, you'll be ready for the course by April, easy. Oh, good God. Don't use me as your fictional character. I checked, I wasn't fictional. I hope I'm not. Okay, let's see. Ooh, it's 9:35. I think we'll go ahead and close out here. Uh, Honestly, never. I've actually never thought about doing that. Uh, Only very, very minor ones that, like, even saging them can get rid of them pretty easy. Um, that said, the dragon that I did the video on, the water dragon, Peachy, the water dragon, Torgra, which the video is coming out Tuesday. Awesome for getting rid of astral nasties and parasites, which I think, yeah, I actually mentioned in the video. So a lot of times that anymore, that's what I do, but most astral parasites are literally, it's like swatting a mosquito. They're just little annoying pests that they're easy to get rid of. They are annoying, and you do have to kind of do your crowd control, because the big problem is when people don't do enough cleansing and grounding and shielding, they build up into a bigger problem. Um, Raven used the old term, a bug's not a problem, an infestation is a problem. And that's really where the astral parasites come in. So if you're having an issue with astral parasites, when that video for Torga comes out, the sigil's there. Utilize that sigil, and you can do an easy candle spell and light the candle. I actually like black candles for this. The white will work. And ask Torgra to cleanse you. Point blank, say, cleanse me. And he'll do it. Another great way to cleanse them is actually, if you look at the grounding and shitting, grounding and shielding, not grounding and shitting, video that we have on the channel, we talk about water grounding in the shower. I do that daily. Every time I shower, I use that shower as a part of my grounding to clean away any astral nasties or negativity, just general everyday maintenance. And I recommend any magician do it. And start adding that to your practice too. So pop over and check that video out. That should be under the Magical Basics playlist. Before we got talking to Dragon Magic on the channel, I was trying to get a good foundation of Magical Basics on the channel. Yeah, more or less just use intent while showering and visualization. Actually just visualize all the gunk and anything stuck to your energetic body just being washed off and going straight down the drain. It's literally that easy. I even extend it to the whole shower. The whole time I'm soaping up and everything, I'm not just washing physical dirt, I'm washing everything. And when it comes to the shave, I continue. Now that I'm washed, I'm going deeper with that shave now. I turn the whole process into a ritual. No problem. It's one of my favorites, honestly. My daily shower and my cup of coffee are probably my two favorite rituals, because even my cup of coffee, when I sit down, it's a grounding ritual. It really is. Yep. And there's a video on living a magical life. where we talk about that very concept. Yes, very much so. Everything we do should have meaning. If you're bored in life, you're doing something wrong. Okay. That was a great question. I'm glad you brought that one up. All right. Anything else before we get going? Y'all have been great tonight. Aw, thank you. I'm just a goofy old mage who's done enough stupid stuff to have learned from it, and now I'm sharing it. Thank you, angels. It's good to know. Always happy to share what I know. Peachy, I'm glad you made it. Hope to see you Sunday again, too. Thank you, Mortimer. Yeah, I'm actually going to take another stab at that tonight. Really? Holy shit. Y'all realize I made a challenge to get to 500 by the end of the month? And Kane just said we hit 700. Well, it seems to be doing that. And hey, y'all know anyone who's interested in this information? Share it. Let's get it out there. That's the whole point of this channel, is to make sure anyone seeking gains access to this information. I am not a big believer in gatekeeping. I believe knowledge should be shared. Angels, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm going to guess that's your sub. And Mortimer, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do when I hit 1,000. I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around the 700. I won't lie. You all have been absolutely great. So, I mean, earlier I talked about, I'm having trouble answering emails now. And I actually had someone tell me that sounds stressful and awful. It's not. That is a problem that is great to have. I'm actually able to reach this many people and help them. So that's a wonderful problem to have. Raven actually kicked an idea out about starting a Patreon. And like level 1 of the Patreon, those people get priority answering. So it might be a way to better organize how I answer things, but it's a thought. But right now, my focus has got to be on getting that Dragon Magic course up. Too many people wanting that. Oh, that's 2 beers. Yeah. Cheers. All right, everyone. I will let you go. I'm going to go tinker on that ritual and see if I can get any further than I got last night. Everyone have a wonderful night. And as always, may your path always be blessed, no matter what that may be. And always seek to learn something new. Take it easy, everyone. Good night.